everyone. Welcome to the program. This is Sunday Politics live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Joaquin Baloye. Get around, everyone, and let's talk. You might be an Arsenal fan. Not a good time to be a fan of that club in London. But, well, put that aside and let's focus on talking about Nigeria's politics, everyone. It's been some eventful past weeks from series of project approvals under the Buhari government that has gotten a lot of agitation and attention. The suspicion and the concerns became even more when early in the week, the president sent a request to the Senate asking for an approval for $800 million to be approved by the National Assembly, a loan to be taken from the World Bank. A lot of Nigerians are talking about it. And it's on the heels of the number and the height and the depth of burden of debt that Nigeria has been dipped into over the past few years. We know the figures from 2015 when President Muhammadu Buhari took over as president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Those who were saying that this debt is worrying. Now, that issue we will deal with, and I'll show you the breakdown and what the president wanted from the Senate. Those who have said to the World Bank that do not grant the request of Buhari in this regard. We'll get to that in a moment. Let's for a moment get into a matter that has caused a lot of stir in the Nigerian politics. One matter that has raised some eyebrow is that of the National Assembly and the manner in which the APC, the All Progressives Congress, has zoned the leadership of presiding officers' positions in the National Assembly among the different regions of the country. The party announced the zoning and put names to the positions, which some find rather unusual, and for some, the arrangement is skewed, irrational, and unfair. The major part of the agitation is that the Northwest region has two positions slotted for it among 4 available presiding officers' positions, and the region, like the North Central, asking where is equity, fairness, and justice? Meanwhile, some stakeholders today in Abuja are asking the leadership of the party to review the process or the arrangement and throw open the contest to allow an even and more competitive contest on the floor of the National Assembly in June, when there will be an election and vote for the presiding officer. Let me allow you to listen to these group of stakeholders who held a live press conference in Abuja today.
In legal drafting, whatever that is not expressly included is expressly excluded. And that is why you have in the House of Reps, expressly included that you must be a ranking member with cognate experience to contest for the position of the House of Reps, Speaker or Deputy Speaker. That is expressly included. In the case of the Senate rule, it's expressly excluded, which means the game is open. And that has been expressed in subsection 3(2)(a).
Well, as I was going on in Lagos, there was yet another gathering. This one, there was a visit from some senators-elect from, numbering over 20, almost 30 of them, led by the man favored by the APC to be the next Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, the former governor of Akwa Ibom State, alongside the man that had been paired with him for a joint ticket, Senator Barau Jibrin from Kano State. They met. They were soliciting for support in Lagos. Take a listen to what Godswill Akpabio said today in Lagos.
Following extensive consultations with the President-elect of Nigeria, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and other party stakeholders, just to report that the National Working Committee of my party, the APC, reached an agreement on a formula that has resulted in the zoning of the Senate presidency to the South-South geopolitical zone and the Deputy Senate presidency to the Northwest geopolitical zone. For this, I want to thank my colleagues, senators-elect, who are not from the APC extraction, who are from other political parties, and there are many. As I speak, I think the stability group who are out to ensure the stability of the nation and the next polity are in their numbers, about 69 of them as I speak now, and the number is growing. We are hoping that in the nearest future, we should reach a consensus.
That is the situation in the Senate. In the House of Representatives, it does look to me that the men the APC have put forward are also not taking things for granted. Part of what we saw in Lagos with the senators, the fact that they also met with the governor of Lagos State and some stakeholders in Lagos in their party. But you can see Honorable Tajuddin Abbas alongside Ben Kalu meeting the vice president-elect. Doesn't look like they're taking things for granted. This is amidst the agitation that the North Central has been left behind and left totally out of the scheme of things. But then, where does the APC go from here? Don't forget, it's going to be a very colorful National Assembly. At least 8 political parties have members in the National Assembly. The 360 members in the House of Reps will vote on several grounds, according to their conscience, according to their political party leanings, what they believe and those who they support. It comes down to one thing, that when they get onto the floor and in the allo chambers, everything outside exits independent of what is happening. And it's just between the National Assembly members and their votes. So what happens? We've seen what happened in the past. Will there be some kind of revolt from members of the APC who are already agitating, and they have taken they're not saying it in the quiet places. They've gone and confronted the National Working Committee members. You remember during the week that the G7, some 7 members who are gunning for the speakership, have met the National Working Committee, and there are 3 members in the Senate who have also met with the NWC and said, look, there is a gross unfair treatment on some of them. Let's get talking about these and how things perhaps will pan out in the coming days. I have with me Honorable Ben Kalu, a member of the House of Representatives from Abia State, member of the APC, is a favorite of the APC for the Deputy Speaker position. Thank you so much, Honorable Kalu, for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Shehu, for having me. Nigerians, glad to have you here.
From being a spokesperson of the House to potentially being a Deputy Speaker, how does that feel for you?
For me, it feels good, though I wanted to be the Speaker of the 10th Assembly. But being a party man, having served the party well by making sure that my image-making responsibility for the 9th Assembly was carried efficiently well, as I was told, making sure that rancor-free National Assembly was achieved, between horizontal relationship among members and vertically between our arm of government and that of the executive, understanding the workings of all the committees of the House, knowing how to resolve their problem before it gets to the press, presenting an image that has increased the confidence of the people, the activities of the National Assembly. I felt I was well-rounded to be the Speaker of the House, especially when you consider the fact that for 40 years, that is 4 decades, except when you consider the last time the Southeasterners held the gavel in the House of Representatives, the time of Right Honorable Edwin Umozo, okay? The Southeasterners have not held the gavel, so I felt it was time for us to step into that particular space. But the party is supreme. The party, in their wisdom, decided that what was due for the Southeast at the moment will be the deputy speakership position. And in every democratic climb, be it the United States under Republican or under the Democrats, the party will always point at a direction that they want to go with regards to forming the architecture of government in view of the national objectives they have set for themselves to achieve. And these national objectives must be achieved with an arm of government that buys into that same national objective. So that always guides them to make sure that what they have preached in their manifesto will be given wheels to, become reality in the lives of Nigerians. So it is a careful, responsibility that must be carried by the leadership of the party and major stakeholders. And I'm sure that is what the party has done at this time, pointing at the direction that they want for their party members to go. Not the entire National Assembly. Some people get it wrong and say that the party has a zone and micro-zone and all that. The party owes the members of the party the responsibility to point at the direction. And that is what they have done. And for me, being asked to, run for deputy speakership of the House, I'm happy that my party considered my effort, my party considered my loyalty, my party considered my dedication and steadfastness with the party in the Southeast, being the only returning member of the House of Representatives under APC in Abia State. It was a tough one because of the wave, but we stood our ground. My campaign office was shot at with over 100 bullets. We were intimidated, we were threatened, assassins sent, but we insisted that where the party stood will be where we'll stand. And we did that till we got the victory.
Do you think the Southeast in a Tinubu presidency deserves such a position like the Deputy Speaker of the House?
Of course, we do. I think that we do.
Tinubu got 127,605 votes in the entire 5 states. No governor. He didn't get not even 25% in any of the states in the Southeast.
The difference between Tinubu's administration and maybe other administrations we've had is that this is a man who has fought under Nadeko. He's a true Democrat and does not look at only the number of votes. Yes, as a human being, it will affect him. He will be sentimental about it. But generally speaking, this is a Democrat who understands the impacts of constitutional democracy. And the Constitution says in Section 14, federal character should be an element to be considered.
But again, Honorable, this is politics,
yes,
right?
Yes.
When we get to issue of governance, where it is statutory, for example, composing cabinet, which is statutory, it's in the Constitution.
No, it's part of
But
it.
just a moment, this is politics where your effort is being rewarded. That is the nature of politics. You win an election just because you make an effort and you got the vote. You look at the states like North Central region. Out of the 6 states in the North Central, they have 4 governors. He gave Bola Tinubu the 3rd highest votes across all the regions. Compared to your region, a lot of the agitation has come that for a region like the Southeast to be considered for such a presiding officer position is rather unfair and uncharitable.
No, you can't say that. And,
no, it's not me saying it.
Okay,
These are the agitation from your political party. And based on the numbers, I mean, how would you jettison a region like the North Central, for example? Or what do you say
let's start from
for a region like the North Central that is being left out of the scheme of things and being picked over by Southeast, a region that did not even give Bola Tinubu any presence?
Let me mention this, that the difference between the administration that we're expecting from our president-elect and others is that he knows the importance of planning early. The journey to 2027 election starts with what we do now, the foundation we lay now. And if you're talking about interest in commanding cohesion in the country, national cohesion, that will inspire national loyalty, you must start now to give that inclusive element to be very obvious.
The author of injustice?
Cannot be called injustice.
That's what your party members are making reference to.
That is a weak argument because we are talking about what is beyond election. We're talking about nation building. When you talk about nation building, you forget about sentiments. You forget about emotions. You look at the strongest argument, and the strongest argument here, Sheon, is how do we make a diversity-sensitive leadership? nation-building effort that will incorporate the beautiful coloration of all the diverse parts of the country coming together to work for what we preach. We say the unity, peace, and progress. And for that to be achieved, every part of this nation, you will recall that, or you may recall that in the last 4 years, the Southeast was not holding any presiding officer's position. And it has impacted on this election, among other things. And I can assure you, if you neglect Southeast again, a whole zone, in such sensitive position, then you will battle again in 2027. That is a big risk for any great planner to take, because if you start now to plan and adopt this spirit of inclusion, Southeast is going to yield a better harvest than what was yielded before. So I know he's a great planner. I know that the party is, filled with, strategists who have sat down, considered so many factors and said, for my region, Southeast, we need it back into the fold. We need the votes to be harvested from there. And if we're going to achieve that, a sense of belonging must be given to them. Come on, Shaun.
Honorable,
if we cannot get...
You don't think this is a case of robbing Peter to pay Paul? You are a lawmaker.
Yes.
You know the principle of majority.
Yes.
The principle of majority guides the affairs of parliament, legislature, across the globe where democracy is being practiced. And the fact they say, the principle that minority might have their say, but majority will have their way. And perhaps seeing a reason why some North Central members of your party are saying that there is an injustice being meted out on them if they are put in the work and they are not being considered at all over a region like the Southeast region that rejected their party, and now they are being favored and they are being they are benefiting from where they did not work.
In fact, Shaun, you are forgetting vital issues. That in considering forming a government that will work for the country, that there are certain things you consider beyond the parliament. And even within the parliament, you should be conscious of our unique nature. Nigeria is a secular state. You know that we have the president-elect as a Muslim at the moment, the vice president is a Muslim, and you know that if we have in the House a Muslim speaker and you have North Central as a deputy speaker who definitely might be a Muslim, is not going to show a beautiful picture of a secular state. So while you consider other factors, there are other higher factors that must be factored in the decision-making mechanism.
So
that by the time it comes out,
what gave rise to your nomination? Or you're being favored?
I have mentioned to you about my zone. We've not been there for donkey years, and we want to be included now. The party is considering that. And also, the party also want to reward loyalty. And the labels that we have shown in fighting for the party is shopping for competence, capacity, credibility. The party is looking for those
So you're the most credible and the most fit for that role in your region?
It is for the party to decide. It's not, I can't blow
not
my
because
trumpet, but
those who say that you're a friend of the institutions within and around Bola Tinubu. That's why you are being favored.
I don't think it would be fair to allow to judge Tinubu's decision-making or the party's decision-making mechanism or strategy or prowess on the grounds of me being a member.
That you're close to the inner caucus?
I'm close to the party.
That's why you're favored?
I'm close to the party. As a member of the party, you must be close to the party. I didn't betray the party.
Are you worried?
I never betrayed the party.
Yes. Just a moment. Are you worried that in all of this, because you have been handpicked for this position, they already label, it's bad enough that the 9th Assembly is being labeled by some Nigerians as a rubber stamp National Assembly, and now going into the 10th National Assembly, that label might subside because you are going to also answer to the whistle of the person who handpicked you. or those who are picked.
What a romantic description that Nigerians and some journalists have accepted to use as a label for the National Assembly that has delivered more than other assemblies. I think we should be fair in attaching labels. You know very well that our track record shows that we have outperformed.
You don't think that this National Assembly is a rubber stamp?
I don't think that the description is fit for the job that we have done. Right. We made PIB become PIA. We have looked at the constitutional review, and we sent in 35 and we got 16 back out of the sections of the Constitution that we sent to Mr. President. You know the list of achievement that we've made. I'm not sure time will allow us to go through that. To come around the Electoral Act that all of us are talking about now, you know it was obsolete. You know KAMA was obsolete. And these ones have been renewed. Through legislative interventions, a better drafting that suits the dynamics of the current time. And to ignore all those and then begin to describe us as rubber stamp because we don't wear boxing gloves, as if let me finish, as if wearing of boxing gloves is an exhibition of an efficient legislature. It is not. The size of our boxing gloves should not be what determines how effective we have been. The acrimony, the rancor, is not the true definition of an effective and efficient legislature. Well, it is a legislature that understands that though we are three arms of government, but we are one government with one national objective and buys into that national objective to make sure that the success of the executive is the success of the legislature. Then we know we are part of the government.
Perhaps Honorable, perhaps the disappointment comes from where most Nigerians are the point where they thought some of you guys will stand up for their wish, for their rights, when many Nigerians were being killed, insecurity in the land, and they thought that in the National Assembly there are people who will speak up and stand up to the executive when Ways and Means funds from Ways and Means are being expended and there are question marks on how that is being done, and there are requests from the executive that Nigerians are not happy with. The National Assembly in this time are just signing it off, and a lot of issues here. They are too numerous to count, and those are the moments perhaps Nigerians are asking, can these guys who are elected into the National Assembly stand up and speak truth to power to an executive that just takes things to them and they just pass it? That is what they describe as rubber stamp.
And I want to tell you that the office belongs to Nigerians. The office of the citizens of Nigerians own our positions. It doesn't belong to us. It belongs to the people. And they have the right to ask questions. And it's not this parliament that is the only parliament that is being asked questions all around the world.
So when you describe your parliament as a rubber stamp parliament, are they not right when they feel that you have not stand up and fight for their right? In terms of oversight, in terms of lawmaking, in terms of representation?
I'm surprised you're saying this, Seun, because you have followed our activities closely. I'm surprised.
I'm asking you to defend yourself in the face of the right-thinking Nigerians who are criticizing and who are asking that what would the National Assembly say they have done for a government that promised security and hundreds of Nigerians are being killed. The government that has promised that economy will be better, and you know the exchange rate. What has the National Assembly done to reverse that? For a government that promised that it's going to fight corruption, you're hearing the enormous amount of money, government funds that have been stolen under this government. What has the National Assembly done to it? The manner in which of the performance of the MDAs under this government, in the eyes of this National Assembly, those whom they say they elected to represent them, what has your National Assembly done? And that's perhaps where they come to the point of saying, you guys are just rubber stamp.
I say, Femi, I keep calling you Femi.
Because Femi is your very good friend.
Yeah, he's my very good friend. I won't deny him. He's my very good friend. It's amazing to hear that the interventions of the legislature, which you know have been carried out by the Ninth Assembly, is not within your reach. I say so because, you know, the amount of laws, bills that have been passed into laws with regards to security. You saw what we did with the defense when issues of insecurity came up. You saw the security summit that produced overseas bills after the summit. You saw what we have done with education. You saw how we intervened when there was strike by ASU and all the rest of them. You saw our legislative interventions there. You know, this is normal in every parliamentary democracy. The people want more. But in order to adjudge the Ninth Assembly's performance, it should do a comparative analysis. I expect you to do the comparative analysis
it's
because
not my job to
you
do
know
that.
because
It
you
is
know
your job.
because you know
are being employed by Nigerians.
Yes.
You are being paid on a daily basis to do your job.
Yes, and we are
if
doing
there are bad optics about how you do your job, it is your business to be able to correct it.
There are documents we have published and we sent to your office. I'm sure you have the Green Chamber magazine, which has the documented efforts of the legislature from the onset till now. The Ninth Assembly have catalogued all the laws in all the sectors, all the legislative intervention in all the sectors. Drop a copy because your program is not enough for us to go through all of them. And they were happening live, and some of them you covered them live. Your channel covered them live.
I'm not talking about this platform.
To give us...
I'm talking about Nigerians.
Nigerians...
Over 200 million of them, and several millions who think that your parliament is a rubber stamp parliament. But if you go on and on, I'm very sure you will exhaust all your energy because I have just loads and loads of complaints about your performance.
Definitely. It's expected in every parliamentary democracy.
But you need to correct that.
There will always...
You need to show Nigerians that what the amount they are being paid in salaries and wages to you lawmakers, you making it count for the benefit of Nigerians.
We are making it count. If not so, we will not be where we are at the moment. If the legislature, they are not making the salaries count, we won't be where we are at the moment. And like I said, the records are there, and you're at liberty to invite us for that specifically.
The cool, luxurious vehicles and those luxurious lives
I don't have any.
I'll put you guys, you'll be able to account for it and let Nigerians, just for us to wrap this up.
Yes.
How much of support are you getting, yourself and Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, and those who have sworn that they will fight the decision of the APC to at the last minute in June, when the National Assembly will be inaugurated and it will be up for election?
Yeah, as you know, this is democracy, and all the people who have shown interest to contest, they are all well qualified to run for this position. And all we can do is, when party has pointed to the direction it has pointed, many will be aggrieved. What you do is not to ignore them. What you do is not to take it for granted that the party has anointed you and it is an easy sell. No. What we are doing is deliberately taking steps towards making these members buy into the party's position and asking the party to look at what is being presented and what is the agitation from the people.
How many members do you have in your favor now?
Well, we have over 250 with us at the moment.
Over 250
across various political parties. Forget about what you hear.
What about the larger majority, the group that call themselves the greater majority? The
greater majority's strengths have been weakened because after the pronouncement, many of the members of the greater majorities have seen reasons to align with the ruling party's position. And I can assure you, in the next coming days, you begin to see the trickle effect of the negotiations that we are having with most of them. And I also would like to let you know that the candidates who are also agitating, they were shortchanged, are beginning to feel the impact that we are reaching out more to people and we are bringing more people to our food. They were 15 before, from there to 10, from there to now about 7. Right. And we have only about 5 now that is remaining, which means we are reaching out the more, and it's not by force. Like I said, they have every right. Like you talk about North Central, I've asked the question as well, and I'm sure my party has a plan to accommodate North Central in their
we're out of time, but in 30 seconds, what was it that Bola Tinubu was asking from you guys when he handpicked you guys?
Handpicked?
That's the information we're getting.
That's the wrong information.
And the party said so. Just a moment. Yes. They consulted, they president-elect, the vice president-elect, to come to that decision?
The president and the vice president-elect, among other stakeholders, are major stakeholders on the stakeholders administration list of the party.
But what were they asking
if a decision is going to be taken, that decision will be taken with the stakeholders. So to say handpick, no, Bola Tinubu did not handpick anybody.
But that's
the party did.
But that's one way to say you are being handpicked.
It's not true. The party.
But what were they asking of you?
Asking of us
to support you, to support the government when they get into office.
They are not making any demands from us. We know our mandate. The constitutional mandate is clear on the responsibility of the legislature. Nobody will tell us what to do. We understand the borderlines of the doctrine of separation of power, and we will know, even though we understand that we are three arms of government, that we are pursuing one objective, but we must respect the borderlines of doctrine of separation of power for the interest of Nigeria.
What would you do?
Should I lose?
Yeah. What would you do?
Honestly, I'll continue being a parliamentarian. I'm already here, but I know I will not lose because the people are with us.
Honorable Ben Kalu, APC is favorite for the Deputy Speaker position in the 10th National Assembly. Thank you so much indeed for coming.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Appreciate it. Yeah. We take a break, everyone, and when we return, well, the popular $800 million request by President Muhammadu Buhari to the Senate gets our attention. Why? Will the Senate approve these? Sarap has written to the World Bank to say, reject it, and let there be a review of that request. We'll be dissecting all of these issues for you. We'll be right back, everyone.
Adron Homes, building cities, communities, and homes.
On the program, it's on the Politics Live on Channels Television. Of course, we told you earlier that one matter in the front burner, and a lot of which Nigerians are really agitated about, is the request by President Muhammadu Buhari on Wednesday to the Senate asking for the approval of $800 million loan to finance the National Social Safety Network program. The request was contained in a letter read by the President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, to lawmakers on the floor of the Senate. The President went further in that letter that the Senate may wish to note that the program is intended to expand coverage of shock-responsive safety net support among the poor and vulnerable Nigerians. This will assist them in coping with the cost of meeting basic needs. Meanwhile, the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has urged the World Bank President, Mr. David Malpass, to use his good office to suspend any disbursement of the $800 million loan to the federal government and to request the incoming administration to provide satisfactory explanation for the loan. Let's get talking on this one. It seems to have gotten attention of a lot of people, and the issue of the debt burden of the nation has also been brought into the fray. I'm being joined by the Senate spokesperson and the senator representing Osun State in the Senate, a member of the APC, Senator Ajibola Basiru. Thank you so much, Senator, for joining us tonight.
Yeah, good evening, Sheo.
Yeah. We'll be getting some economic perspectives also on this. Mr. Kyari Ebuka, who is a former chairman of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group. He joins us virtually. Thank you so much, Mr. Buka. It's good to see you, and thanks so much indeed for creating time for us and give perspectives on the President's request and other issues. But, Senator, let's begin the conversation, sir. This request It's gotten a lot of Nigerians agitated. Would the Senate approve or not?
I don't have power of clairvoyance, and my calling is law, not prophecy. So I wouldn't know what the attitude of the Ninth Assembly to the request. As you have said, the request was made available on Wednesday. And of course, as is characteristic of the Nigerian Senate, the request will be sent to relevant committee of the Senate for consideration, and there will be interface with the relevant agencies of the executive to be able to get proper briefing and, of course, rationale, justification, and will also be examined in the context of the debt sustainability requirement under the Fiscal Responsibility Act. So I cannot this evening say whether it will be approved or whether it will not be approved. And in any event, I'm one senator out of 109 senators that would be considering the proposition. So at the best, I can only hazard a guess of what will be my personal disposition, assuming I have all the facts as to what impel the requirement for that loan.
The footnote to this, everyone, is that we're speaking with Senator Basiru because he's speaking on behalf of the Senate as an institution and on behalf of the 109 senators elected into the Red Chamber. So when we are asking you these questions, we're asking you, hoping that you have all of the information for Nigerians because you are serving them and you have been elected to represent your people. So in that respect, we are hoping that we might get some knowledge from the activities of your colleagues. So that's why I asked the question.
Of course,
and in that respect, one wonders that it's just about 20 days or less for this government to move to exit, and perhaps are the senators also wondering why this kind of request is coming at this time in the day?
Seun, just as you have said, a letter was written by President to the Senate on Wednesday. And Wednesday, if you check, that was the last plenary day for the week. And the content of the letter was read at the plenary. So the question of what I'm saying is that I'm not in a position to tell you what will be the disposition of the Senate. And characteristically, what the Senate will do will be to send the request when it comes up for second reading, I think by the next legislative day, to the relevant committee of the National Assembly. And then there will be interface with the executive arm. And now talking about whether it is 20 days or 1 day that remains, I think that is a moot question. At the life of an administration, when a person is sworn in to be president, is sworn in to be president for 4 years, and that 4 years elapsed on the eve of the night of 29th of May 29, 2023. So he has all the power of the executive, which is not going to be in abeyance just because there's an election or that there is a transition. Also, the life of this 9th Assembly will expire on 11th of June 2023. So the question of whether it is 20 days, 5 days, or 12 hours that remain begs the question. So what I'm saying in essence is that rather than subject ourselves to constraints of commentators who may also not be informed of what the executive was thinking, we will look at the request. And of course, we're going to subject it to scrutiny, and we're going to ask the relevant agencies to provide justification. I'm not oblivious of the fact that there have been a lot of commentary on both for and against the loan request. But we cannot base our position and what eventually will be the position of the Nigerian Senate on individual opinion, but on a critical evaluation of the papers by which the loan request is being made.
Senator, if I may jump in quickly, because and I guess this should worry you though, because you are a representative of the people, and the kind of suspicion and distrust that is in the minds of some Nigerians about the activities of you and your colleagues in the manner in which you dispense your role as lawmakers. For example, when the Ways and Means approval came over the securitization of about 22.7 trillion of the CBN Ways and Means to the federal government, there are a lot of people who worry at the time that are the senators aware of the enormous debt burden that this country will be plunged into? The DMO at the time warned that that will have taken or projected Nigerians' debt burden to about 77 trillion naira. Does that worry you, Senator? And perhaps the reason why there is suspicion and distrust?
It's not, you see, when you talk about government, naturally, there's always atmosphere of suspicion against any government in the world, even the government of the advanced, democracy and advanced economy. In fact, it's usually like, the government and the people, on their hand. But the question is that you must have a holistic perspective of the decision you are taking. Let's look at the different scenario we have, particularly in relation to the question of the ways and means. These ways and means, assuming the National Assembly turn down that ways and means, what will be the implication on the economy of the country, assuming that request was turned down? It's just like the argument presently in the United States about raising the debt ceiling, and a failure to do so. What effect will it be? I'm cognizant of the fact that there are a lot of concerns about the 77 trillion debt that is being said about Nigeria. But the question you ask yourself is that this loan, what are they being used for? And whether when those that are being used for, are they not being seen in terms of manifestation in infrastructure development? Part of this loan, because it's easy to just say 77 trillion naira, you also know that the Idu to Kaduna Railway is part of what this loan was part of. The Lagos-Ibadan railway project is also part of it. The second Niger bridge is also part of what this loan. Then the hydro power electricity project is also part of what this has gone to, as well as some other critical infrastructure that are being developed under the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. So you cannot just talk of loan and figure in isolation. You must talk in the context of whether those loans are being used for what manifestly can be seen and what manifestly in the long run can translate to some form of economic advancement in the near future for our country. That is the consideration. It's not just enough to make banalistic political statements. Said, hey, 77 trillion has gone. What has this loan being used for, and what will be the practical manifestation in terms of real economy? Of course, any government must be ready to be alive to criticism, must be alive to also some people who don't see it the way it has been. But I will say that rather than just look at figures, we must also look at manifestations in real terms of what has been done in terms of real infrastructure development of our society, in terms of road infrastructure, real infrastructure, development of our aviation sector, as well as some other real sector of our economy.
Senator, if you and I get into the debate of the reason and the rationale between, of your colleagues approving some of these debt who might not get out of here, but let me bring in Mr. Karibuka, because if you look at what Mr. Ben Akabo is, the Director General of the Budget Office, a government official has said that our revenue is too small to sustain our debt, and perhaps what the senator is saying tonight might also raise a question mark and the reason why the senators are going about it the way they have gone about it. But Mr. Booker, give us a sense, because this we understand the $800 million loan request is supposed to help to service, to buffer the effect of the fuel subsidy. But this is where we find ourselves. Any danger in the works over these requests?
Thank you, Sean. The $800 million may not be the thing that is going to tip us over the hump, so to speak. However, we have been heavily indebted as a nation. I know that most people will quote the debt sustainability as an issue, meaning that our total debt is around 35 or thereabout % of our GDP. Now, the area of concern is not that of debt as a % of GDP, but debt as a % of revenues. In that case, at the center, the federal government is heavily indebted. No matter what the senator says, the fact of the matter is that a big portion of the revenues generated by the country goes for debt servicing. When you combine both the domestic and the foreign debt, it amounts to somewhere in the neighborhood of 76 to 77 trillion naira. Now, sorry, some people are talking. I'm getting interference. What we have here is also a situation of decorum. Protocol necessitates, yes, the fact of the matter is that this administration is still in power until the 29th of May, and therefore it can do whatever is necessary to fix the economy. Now, this is the same administration that has borrowed over 21 billion US dollars in the last 8 years. Therefore, if it is just borrowing, that's one matter, but it is borrowing for some purpose. And what has happened is that in those 8 years, the average living standard of the average Nigerian citizen, discounting people in high places, has gone down drastically. Look at our GDP per capita. It has been going down south since the beginning of this administration. Therefore, just loading debt without the effect of that debt going into the right social infrastructure will be a problem. Giving cash to people may, on the surface of it, be a good thing to do. Why shouldn't we borrow domestically to do that if that's the case? So the question goes, it's not just the fact of the matter is, it's not just borrowing to subsidize, to remove the effect of the subsidy removal on the average person. There are some structural issues that need to be fixed. The transport sector, food and food-derived inflation, all of those are going to go up as soon as the subsidy is removed. Now, what will $800 million do? And how many people are going to be beneficiaries of that $800 million? So I think when one looks at it, there should be some fundamental questions that the senators need to ask of the presidency and come up with a more comprehensive solution than this 6 months buying of time, at which time we may actually see worse than expected outcome, because inflation will continue to rise from where we are around 24, 25% to somewhere in the neighborhood of 30%. And as soon as we go into a hyperinflationary economy, most other things will go to the dogs as far as the economy is concerned. So we need to look at it in a very critical manner. But again, yes, the administration can do this. However, the incoming administration will be saddled with the cleaning up of a mess if there were going to be a mess. And so goes to the Senate as well.
Mr. Bukar, let me quickly jump in and let's stay on what the purpose which you highlighted. I mean, looking at what that $800 million US dollar is going to be used for. The loan is to be disbursed to about progressively to about 50 to 60 million vulnerable Nigerians in about 10 million households as part of the fuel subsidy palliative measure to buffer what could be the pressure and the shock from that policy. And the project aims to provide cash transfers to poor and vulnerable people in both rural and urban areas in Nigeria in response to the economic shocks for at least 2 years. But the question is, politically speaking, this might sound somehow, economic speaking, is it reasonable? And you look at it that how transparent has this social welfare scheme of the Buhari government over the last 7 years has been, as for really the poor people in Nigeria they've been benefiting from this scheme. Does it look like a scam or something? About 23 million US dollar out of that money will be spent on consultancy fees alone.
Exactly. In fact, when you look at something like this, you begin to question whether it is going to the intended people or not. There has been a lot of anecdotal information out there in being discussed that in certain parts of the country, even the people that are supposed to be in the different agencies of government disbursing these monies are basically making up the individuals. Of course, if it were to be truly digitally disbursed and using BVNs or the likes, then it would be traceable. And I hope and pray that that's what the case is going to be. If, on the other hand, it is done a la some of the things that we have seen where people were handed over cash, then traceability becomes an issue. So whether $23 million, which would amount to about 5%, well, maybe 2.5% of the total amount of $800 million goes to consultancy or infrastructure or whatever. What is absolutely critical is that 10.5 million people stated in the slide that you show, is too small in a country where we have about 100 million multidimensional poverty, and 5,000 naira per month to those individuals. Yeah, it can assist them in probably providing food or but it's not going to be enough for them to actually have, something tangible to put into so that they become independent down the road. So essentially, we're just cleaning up the deck of the Titanic, if I can use a cliche. The ship is sinking. And meanwhile, we are cleaning up the floor.
Yeah, from your own standpoint, how best would you, are you thinking Nigeria or the government of the day would have handled this matter? We are knocked between very tough walls and between the sea and the devil, and where we jump into is a tough one to decide. Apparently, even this is approved by the Senate, the money might not likely be disbursed before they get out of office. But the question is, politically speaking, how best do you think we could have handled this?
Politically speaking, there are many easier ways of doing this. By easier, I mean removing fuel subsidy for a country that is drunk with petroleum is going to be difficult. However, during the initial days of the Buhari administration, when there has been a honeymoon and euphoria, a lot of economists had, and even bodies have recommended removal of the subsidy. And one of those suggested modes, which I also endorsed at that time, was to raise the PMS price on an annual basis, say 10% per year, until such a time that it becomes normalized, meaning it is at the market rate, in which case government should remove its hands from this business of importing of refined petroleum products and make it standardized. Once you meet the standards, import it, and that way set your own price, by which time the market would have adjusted gradually. They're not going to be the parable of the boiled frog. It will be gradual increase, in which case the economy itself will adjust fairly well to the impending moves. And once that has been achieved, then we are going to be in a better position.
Let me return to Senator Ajibala. With all of these, Senator, if you look at it, before the government, Buhari government, one government that I know that you were very vocal about bringing into, you were one of those who were in the front line preaching change. Before that government came into power in 2015, Senator, the debt profile of this country was about 12 trillion naira and is rising to about 7 trillion. How do we get out of here?
I think, you see, you are getting your premise is even very wrong. You don't make comparison in terms of money, in terms of dimension. There's time value of money. There's a time dimension. 12 billion, the value of 12 billion in 2015 is not the same as the value of 12 billion in 2023, certainly, if you, know economics. So you have to know what is the real value of that 12 billion you are talking about and the real value of what you have now. Then two, I've also told you, and the fact speaks to itself, this loan, he has spoken about social infrastructure, need to invest in social infrastructure. The question you should be asked is that with your figure you have mentioned in 2015 and the figure you have mentioned in 2023, what has not changed in terms of real investment in social infrastructure? Are you saying that the Idu-Kaduna Railway was there completed in 2015 Are you saying that the Lagos-Ibadan Railway was there? Are you talking about Second Leather Bridge? Are you talking about hydropower project? Are you talking about many other, road intervention? And of course, the tax incentives that have been given, to private, sector. So we cannot, pigeonhole assessment of the government by just picking one figure from 2015 and juxtapose with the figure.
This I assume that all of this that you're mentioning is supposed to affect and impact the economy generally, isn't it?
Of course, you also know. You also know. I know. I'm watching keenly. What is happening in Turkey, in Istanbul now. There's an election that is going. Economy is actually a major factor, even in the Istanbul election. I came back from Istanbul on Wednesday. In the UK, economy is a major issue. United States economy is a major issue. What has happened between 2015 and now, particularly what has happened to global economy since the pandemic, that cannot be the countenance in discussing what has happened to the economy of any part of the world. So,
Senator, what I was going to draw your attention to is that all of these things that you said, that this administration has borrowed money to service, are supposed to impact generally on the economy.
Of course.
And there's supposed to be some results.
And some also have a futuristic perspective of what
the indices released by this same government is in the negative on the economy. The inflationary effect of inflation. Unemployment is in over 33%.
Challenges of economy is always coming, and of course you face the challenge. If we want to paper off those challenges, of course those challenges will not even be highlighted by official statistician of government. But the truth is that you must be able to confront challenges you have. You cannot. You see, it's easy when you're not in government. You can fold your hands and be an abstract critic and come up with different scenarios. As government, both at the legislative and legislative arm, we have to face a real situation. We have problem of poverty. We have problem of unemployment. We have challenges, of productive activities.
But you saw all of this when you promised Nigerians, of course, we are still heaven on earth.
That's why Nigerians still voted for our party. Ahead of another transition. We still won another election.
In fact, you know what some of your party members promised about the parity between the dollar and the naira. But we know what it is right now.
We won the election in 2023 February.
But does it take away the fact that
we still have a mandate? So
the economy is going to be left in a bad form?
The economy is challenged, just like every other economy in the world is challenged. It's not a peculiar problem of Nigeria. You cannot make it a
and the fact that the question mark on the duties of you and your colleagues in the red chamber is that what was it that you were
just like we got mandate.
Prove us of all of these debts up to this point.
So we got mandate in 2015. We got mandate in 2019. We still got pan-Nigerian mandate in 2023. And beyond that, we still are honest to be able to point out inadequacies and challenges that we are facing, and we will continue to do so. And when people talk about a cut-off date of President Muhammadu Buhari administration, May 29, our party, by the grace of God and by the election we have won, we're going to be beyond 2023 in government. And of course, we're going to tackle these challenges. We're going to address some of the issues that have led us to this place. Politically, the question of subsidy, which has been raised, of course, the president, elect, has stated categorically, even in the election, even at the pain of possibly, not getting necessary, political mileage, has stated this position as to the fact that we can not continue to do things in that regard, as it were.
Senator Jibola Basiru, the spokesperson of the Senate and a member of the National Assembly representing Osun State, a member of the APC. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight.
Yeah, thank you for having me here.
Mr. Kyari Buka, it's good to see you. Thank you so much for your intervention and the perspective that you are giving on this matter. I guess it's a conversation that will be ongoing as long as this issue of the request is still lying in front of the Red Chamber. Thank you so much indeed, Mr. Buka.
Thank you, Sean.
Appreciate it. That's our show for tonight, everyone. I'll see you, God willing, tomorrow at 7 p.m. I'm sure Akim Ale. God bless Nigeria.
Choice and listen. Our podcast is available on Apple, Google, and Spotify. Tap the expertise you trust. Touch the stories that touch you. Anytime, anywhere.
Lucky Spring from 1xBet. Take part in promotion with cool prizes. Bet on any sports events. Get tickets. Have a chance to win cool prizes. The more you bet, the greater your chances. Use promo code to get a welcome bonus right now.